So I've been listening to a lot of my favorite podcasts, The Scathing Atheist, lately, and it got me thinking. Now, The Scathing Atheist isn't only my favorite because I've been on it a couple of times, although that helps. The reason it hits such a nerve with me is that it isn't afraid to be funny about anything. And when that thought occurred to me, it really twisted my head around to think about how afraid we are right now to be funny about anything. Now, I'm not talking about knock-knock jokes and everybody loves Raymond. The bland humor, which offends nobody except the tasteful, abounds. But the strange phenomena of offense has become the new American pastime. Forget baseball. Our new favorite hobby is calling everyone who disagrees with us racist, homophobic, and a chauvinist to boot. I subscribed to Upworthy a few years back because they posted good articles and interesting viewpoints with the occasional beautiful piece of feel-good video thrown in. But now, all it does is fill my feed with the inane cries of offense I can hardly stand. The whimpering lack of understanding that most recently made me grind my molars was the horrifying tale of a school photographer who put a kid in a wheelchair to the side of the class portrait. Now, I want to be clear. He didn't put the kid in a different room with no children around him. He didn't make him wear a dunce cap or a sign that said cripple on it. He put the kid on the end of the row next to the other kids in his wheelchair. Not a big deal, right? Wrong. This separation, about 6 inches, was so horrifying that the photographer was fired and a new photograph was taken where the boy was put in the middle of the class, on the bench, out of his chair. And what surprised me most about this story was how Upworthy trumpeted it like it was them freeing the slaves, the empire had fallen, and Hitler was dead all at once. Now, just for a second, put yourself in the photographer's place. You've got a dozen classrooms of screaming and weeping children to get through, and a standard of look at me and hold the sign school photograph that has stood the test of time. Do you really think to ask to remove the handicapped kid from his wheelchair and throw him into the middle of the class so that nobody will notice he's different? What if he has a medical condition and he needs the chair? Who's supposed to move him? Can you ask to move a kid that isn't yours? Is there anything more ugly or conspicuous than making the handicapped feel different by rearranging around them instead of accepting who they are? Imagine how it felt to be that kid when they told everyone they had to do the picture over weeks later because of him, because they didn't want to acknowledge who he is. And lest we forget, someone lost their job over this. Not a momentary lapse of judgment that was corrected with a thought. Not a hateful act. A guy who didn't go out of his way to make a kid feel different got fired because feelings are magic. But this is the America we've become, where magazines like Jezebel generate clicks and further press by calling everyone who doesn't step around the politically correct minefield of a world we live in chauvinist. Where Salon magazine calls Sam Harris one of the brightest minds of our time an Islamophobe, even though that word has no meaning, and they wouldn't understand Harris's writing if you read it to them every night before they went to bed. But hey, what's the harm? Aren't these people, albeit misguidedly, trying to stand up for what's right? Well, maybe they are, but here's the problem. There are real chauvinists in the world. There are actual racists and homophobes. Men who hate women and hurt them need to be dragged behind a truck going very, very fast. But if we point the chauvinist finger at every man who doesn't like Miley Cyrus dry humping a wrecking ball, it's not the new Susan B. Anthony, then we weaken our own power. We become the boys who cried wolf of common decency, and dangerous people who hurt this world get mixed up with everyone who thinks black jokes are funny. Which brings me to my final point. And this is the most important part. Everything is funny. Black jokes, Jew jokes, rape jokes, knock-knock jokes. Everything in this terribly tragic, unfunny world we live in has to be fair game. And do you know why? Because humor takes away the monster's power. 9/11 isn't funny, not at all. Louis C.K.'s bit about 9/11, that's hilarious. You hear those words and you laugh. and you think, and the awfulness of that tragedy loses its power, and that's the way it has to be. The moment we make things untouchable is the moment we make them dangerous. When we agree that something can never be funny, we never give ourselves a chance to take our power back from it. We condemn ourselves to forever be the victim of that which makes us uncomfortable. Is that really the world we want to live in? Is there a goal of a world devoid of offense that I'm missing out on? What would it look like? And who would the arbiter be? Sadly, I think it would look a lot like the world we live in, squealing babies offended by other babies' squeals. So what if you're offended? What does that mean? Are we so incapable of accepting that the world may disagree with our viewpoint that we think silencing others is any kind of solution? I hate Joe Rogan. I've met him twice at comedy clubs, and I don't like his act. I think he's boring, mean, and he uses his knowledge of martial arts to bully his audience and other comedians from calling him out on his predictable, thuggish, and undereducated viewpoints. So you know what I do? I don't laugh. I don't buy his albums, and I don't go see him perform. I vote with my wallet. And instead of, I support the artists I do like, because the best cure in the world for bad art and bad taste is good art and good taste. That's why Louis C.K. and Patton Oswalt never feel the need to tell us what's off limits. George Carlin, one of the best, constantly brought us face to face with our own hypocrisy. All great artists have. That's kind of their job. So here's my point. You want to live in a world without hate? You want to live in a world where words can't hurt people into hurting themselves, and we can reach some semblance of understanding with each other? Stop creating walls. Tell a black joke if it's funny, and tell a Jew joke if you're Chinese. Fuck, tell me a joke about meat, even though I'm a vegan for all I care. Because if you do, maybe we can start to laugh at the monsters instead of being eaten.